Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 60 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we're coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services as we look forward to having more great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week as we highlight the Fellowship of Christian Athletes of Gaston County. We have Austin Robinson with us today, who is the area director. Austin, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. So we're going to get right to it, and remember, the point is just to kind of raise awareness as much as we can for your organization. So to start with, just tell us a little bit about yourself, the organization. We might have some listeners who aren't familiar with it. I personally was lucky enough to be involved many years ago with FCA. So, just again, share mission, anything you want to talk about.
So, yeah, my name's Austin Robinson. I grew up in Belmont, been in Gaston County my entire life. Both sides of the family are from here. So very familiar with the area. Went to South Point, then went to UNC Charlotte, graduated from there in 2016. And came on staff right almost directly after college. Okay. Got married in 2018. My wife's from Bessemer City, so she's from Gaston County as well. We currently live in Belmont, but yeah, I've been on staff going on 7 years now, and with FCA, and have loved every minute of it. Get a chance to work with the coaches and athletes here in Gaston County. We're involved with all the high schools and middle schools, right. And now we're involved with Gaston College. We're in the process of getting FCA established on campus over there right now. So very good. It's been good. So,
kind of for our listeners who might not know, what is the mission, the purpose of I'm so used to saying FCA.
Yeah.
That I'll make sure our listeners know, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So, what's the mission, purpose? On a month-to-month basis, what are the kind of things that you're trying to accomplish?
Well, our ultimate mission for FCA is to lead every coach and athlete into a relationship with Jesus Christ. So, we go into the schools, and we try to build the relationship first with the coaches, the administration, the athletes, to go in, serve them, love on them, and just let them know that we're here. To do whatever we need to continue to build that relationship. And our ultimate goal from that is to, once we build that relationship, be able to go in and do ministry with huddles, which huddles are just small devotions that we do with the teams, with the coaches, with the campus. There's 3 different huddles we have, and we have around 32 huddles that go on county-wide every school year. And some are in the fall semester, some are in the spring semester based off the season that the sport's taking place. But we go in and just build relationships first and serve them. That's our main thing, and that opens up the door for us to be able to go in and share the gospel and do ministry. So you mentioned that you were at UNCC. I think you said graduated 2016. Mm-hmm.
Did I hear that right?
Yep. So
and started with FCA right after that. So what kind of pushed you that direction, or was FCA an active thing when you were in high school? Were you exposed to it when in high school here?
I was. My former supervisor, Lincoln Long, was leading FCA in Gaston County at the time, and we had FCA at South Point, and I was involved. We did it in the weight room. Coach Devine, who used to be the head coach there, he led FCA on campus that year. It was my senior year, and got involved with it there, but I really didn't think much of it. I didn't know it was a full-time job. I didn't know. I thought it was just a club, and it stopped at that. But once I got to college, I was part of crew on campus, and which is it's still a ministry, just like FCA, except it's just on college campuses. So I was a part of crew with some guys there, and my first couple years there, and started to feel the calling into some sort of ministry, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I loved sports. I knew I wanted to do some sort of ministry. So by the time my junior year rolled around in college, that calling grew even stronger, and started to get to know Lincoln better. I was already really good friends with his brother, but I started to get to know him better, and he invited me to come be an intern with him during the summer.
Okay.
And so I decided to do that. I shadowed him, and I worked camps. We had football camp over at UNC Charlotte every year, 7-on-7 camp, and was able to go over there and work that camp. And just working that camp that summer really opened my eyes up to the ministry even more, because I got a firsthand look at what FCA was, what their goal was, and also behind the scenes with all the staff that were working the camp, I got to learn more about their walk as FCA staff full time, and so that really opened my eyes up to FCA and what it looked like to be in ministry full time with them, and I just prayed on it and spent my last year of college just really figuring out what I wanted to do, and everything kept pointing back to FCA. And I was also coaching baseball at the time at Holbrook Middle.
Okay.
And so I was able to be around, athletes and coach, which is also another passion of mine, coaching. And so I was like, this is, FCA is a perfect fit for me. So started raising support immediately after I graduated from college in the spring of 16. Graduated in May. And interned again that summer with Charlotte FCA while also raising support, and came on staff officially in September of that year.
Okay. And I could be way off here, but it seems like, back in the Stone Ages when I was in high school, FCA was active here. Mm-hmm. Was there a time period where it wasn't, or has it been pretty active through?
It kind of fell off in the mid-2000s.
Okay. Seems like I remember that for some reason. Yeah.
When Lincoln took over in, I want to say it was 2010 when Lincoln took over.
Okay.
He did a good job of getting it started back. There was still FCA involvement in the area, but it was nowhere near where it needed to be.
Gotcha.
There were still some board members in the area, some people that had FCA background, but not staff people. Because back in the early 2000s, just to clear things, we fall under the greater Charlotte area.
Okay.
FCA in Gaston County does. So it's the greater Charlotte, which is the 14 surrounding counties. We're all one area. And now we've got around 40 staff that fill that area.
Serve the whole area?
Serve the whole area.
Okay.
And but before that, there were not very many staff at all in the early 2000s. And you had, a handful of guys covering 14 counties. So you can imagine.
That's a lot.
There was
just geographical
area. Stuff falling through the cracks.
Sure.
For obvious reasons. And it just took time to build the staff up to be able to do ministry. Because FCA in Gaston County at the time was only getting, the staff guy was only being able to get here in this area maybe every couple weeks. So there's not a chance to build good relationships, even though he was doing everything that he could.
Sure.
And that gentleman's still on staff with us to this day. He's been on staff for over 20 years, but he was doing everything he could. He just couldn't get where he needed to be consistently. And so we were able to build staff up in the greater Charlotte area, which Ryan Glower, our new supervisor, is doing a great job of that. And we're just slowly building that staff to where we can cover the areas that fall under our area. So, but now I feel like FCA in Gaston County is really growing. It has in the past, 5 or 6 years, and we've got a ton of involvement, and it's been good.
So, you mentioned a few minutes ago, I think, what you called huddles. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that might be what you consider an initiative or just something that you're doing consistently. I mean, can you talk about some of the initiatives that's going on here, in Gaston County relative to FCA, whether it's events, huddles, what's going on, week to week, month to month here with the local schools and athletes, mm-hmm. and just kind of, what can you share related to that?
I'll start with the huddles. So the huddle is a time that we meet with each of our schools and their teams.
Okay.
Every school has different huddles. At Stuart Kramer, we do a football huddle. And we've got a few others that we do there too. But at South Point, we have a football huddle, softball huddle, girls basketball huddle. And then over at Hunter Huss, football huddle. Ashbrook, we've got a team football huddle. At Belmont Middle, we've got a campus huddle. Chavis Middle and Cherryville, we've had a campus huddle there. So we've got 32 huddles countywide that focus on it's whatever the need is. If we go into a school and they prefer to have just a campus-wide huddle, we'll do everything we can to start that huddle. And it starts with involvement from the school, allowing us to come in and get involved there. And it also involves a representative that's on campus, so either a teacher or a coach that can come in beside of us and help lead that out. And so we've got the huddles on campus, and that's a time where we meet either before school, before practice, after practice. Some schools have club time, and we'll meet during club time or even after school. And it's just a 10 to 15-minute time frame that we get to go in and share the gospel with our whatever audience we're sharing it with. And so that's what the huddle looks like for us.
Yeah. Is that kind of the main thing that's going on a consistent basis?
That's the main thing during the school year that goes on. There's multiple huddles every week. We try to get – the huddles are lined up to take place once a week.
Okay.
So that's our main thing that we have going on throughout the school year. We have coaches events. For instance, our Coaches Night Out event we host every fall. This year will be hosted at Gaston College, and that's just a time for us to invite coaches and their spouses in, for us to serve them, to love on them, and we make it an event where they come in, we feed them dinner, we have a comedy show, and then we have a couple that comes in, and their main focus is marriage. So they come in and they talk, whatever it is they're going to share, they share on marriage from the male and female perspective. And it's just a great night for them to come enjoy themselves. It's a free event for all of our coaches in Gaston County. If you're a rec league coach all the way up to a college coach that's in Gaston County, this event is free for you. So last year we had Mark Rick come in.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Rick.
Former Georgia and Miami
coach. Him and his wife came in and did a great job of speaking to our audience. And it was a great event. So we're looking forward to the event this year. We're looking at November 5th is our date at Gaston College. And we're going to actually combine with Lincoln County FCA this year and open it up to the coaches in that area. And we just thought that Gaston College is a perfect location to do it because it's right in the middle of both counties. So that's another event that we have. And we'll have fundraising dinners throughout the year. And because FCA is we're fully funded by the community, by individuals, businesses, churches. We raise 100% of our support through our community that can pour into us as staff to be able to do ministry in the area that we're serving. And so we have fundraising dinners, events. We do football jamboree every year at Stuart Kramer. That's in August, and we just had our jamboree a couple weeks ago on August 12th, and it's an event where teams come in, they play in a scrimmage game, and we feed the teams after each game, and then we bring them off the field and share the gospel with them. And we do a baseball jamboree in Lincoln County. We're doing a softball jamboree this year in Lincoln County. We're going to partner with the Mia Stokes Foundation and do one up there this year. So there's all kinds of different events that we do throughout the year. And then the summer is all camps. We have, tons of camps throughout the summer that we do, mainly at Black Mountain, North Carolina, up at the YMCA Conference Center. And we have boys camp, we have girls camp, we have coaches family camp where coaches come and they also bring their kids. And we just pour into them, minister to them. And we have leadership camp up there. We have a lot of 7-on-7 camps, a lot of softball camps, volleyball camps, basketball camps throughout not just the Carolinas region, but
so is this a whole state thing or just the 14 county group that you're talking about?
No,
the Charlotte FCA or
the camps that I'm referring to it's a regional thing.
Gotcha.
That we do at Black Mountain, but we have people from all over the East Coast that come to them. But it's just an opportunity for us to get teams or individuals to a camp for their specific sport or whatever it is they're involved with. If it's a leadership camp, for them to come and be poured into for a week, not only with their sport, but also that we use the athletics as the platform to get them there, and then we pour into them throughout the week as it relates to the gospel. And so it's all sports camps, team camps, individual camps, coaches camps, and we offer that, and we're able to scholarship a lot of those athletes and coaches because of the money that we raise here in Gaston County. A lot of that goes towards scholarship and athletes and coaches
to
go to those camps. Yep.
Perfect. So here in Gaston County, do you typically have to go through principals or athletic directors, or are you established enough now? You've been well known enough that all the schools know about you, or are there schools that you're not involved with that you'd like to get involved with, or are you pretty much in most of the schools with athletic programs, or is that a bad question?
We're in, I'd say 85% of the schools in the county.
Okay.
We mainly target middle and high schools.
Okay, sure.
It just works out easier.
Well, that's
for
where
us.
the typical athletic programs are as well.
And ever since COVID, it's been a little bit harder to get back into the middle schools. But we're in the process of getting back to where we were before COVID. The high schools, they're pretty open now, and allowing us to kind of get back to where we were. And the school board's been really good about being behind us. I know Jeff Ramsey's done a good job of really having our back, and because you run it everywhere, you'll run into problems. FCAs, we're blessed in Gaston County because we're able to do a lot that other areas of the country.
Anytime you have ministry and schools, public schools especially together, there can be questions out.
And there's a lot of,
and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So we're blessed in Gaston County with the people that support FCA that are, higher up in the school systems and allow us to kind of, have a presence on campus.
This is a selfish question. Do you have any presence at Forest View High School?
We do. We have a little bit there.
Okay.
There's been, we had a huddle going a couple years ago, and a coach that was leading there has moved on to another school. But it's like that at every school. If we've built a great relationship with a coach, and he's really behind FCA and he moves on to another school, then we have to start over.
Sure.
It's almost every year that we kind of run into that problem.
Yeah.
So,
but
Coach Medlin's been good to us, and he allows us to. He attends our events. He brought his team to our jamboree and has been to our coaches' events and stuff like that. But we've really never had any pushback.
Well, my kids went through Forest View. I still have 11th grader there, and she's a cross country swimmer and girls soccer. Yeah. So I was just curious because I know I'm not involved personally much in the football program there. So looking back, if I'm doing the math right, you're going on 6 years with FCA. Is that correct, roughly?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So looking back at your time, can you got any stories or things that were with an individual or a family or something or a team even that you saw where FCA has made a really impact, or something that you can recall that, a story that you could share, or maybe even what are you most proud of accomplishing at FCA? Just kind of anything that you can. I'm sure there's a bunch if you're involved in so many schools and so many kids. So I get that might be a tough question, but anything that stands out?
I think the thing that stands out is just once we build those relationships at these schools is seeing the student athletes really take it and make it their own. Because our goal is, we'll go in and we'll get everything started, but our ultimate goal is to push these athletes to step up and lead their peers. Right. And just being able to, over the years, to see these guys and girls step up and lead, because, a lot of them when we first get there aren't really outspoken or really eager to lead right away, but being able to see them step up and watch them grow for 4 years. I can think of multiple kids that I've worked with and coaches that have really, stepped up and also benefited from.
Have you seen, I would guess, because my experience with I haven't really coached high school age kids, but through my church years ago, I spent 11 or 12 years coaching as my kids were, in that 5 and 6 year range up until middle school. I did a lot of coaching through the youth program, sports program, and I would see a transformation with a lot of kids. I'm sure as they get more mature into middle school and high school age, I bet you've seen the transformation from those kids that are kind of a little timid to, man, they're probably out front, leading by the time they graduate.
Yep, that's very accurate. And at Hunter Huss, when Jamar McCoy was the head coach there, when I came on staff, he was a new coach at Hunter Huss, and just being able to come alongside him, we were able to do a lot of ministry over there during his time at Huss, and being able to see those guys on that team really mature from ninth grade to senior year, and seeing a lot of those guys go to Yale. You had guys go to North Carolina A&T to Duke,
right?
And just see them and walk with them through that, and have them at our camp. Coach McCoy brought his team to camp every year, our FCA 7-on-7 camp, and just being able to guys like that and other teams and areas, just to be able to walk alongside them and do life with them for 4 years, it's always a blessing. So, and then same with our Megan McClenny, who's on staff with us. She's our female representative in Gaston County. She gets to do that with the female athletes in the area, and she's working with a group of girls right now, and she's been doing a Bible study with them once a week in the morning for going on 3 or 4 years now. So just being able to do life with these coaches and athletes is probably the biggest thing, the coolest thing that I get to see daily.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that's the goal, right?
Yep.
To have that impact and help. What's the direction that these student athletes are going after high school, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the ultimate
and it's fun
goal.
to follow them. I still talk to a lot of guys that that I've been involved with in FCA that are in college playing football or baseball,
right,
or whatever it may be, just following their careers and continuing to talk to them every once a month. It's fun to hear from them.
So we talked a little bit beforehand, before we started recording, about your role and maybe expand into Lincoln County, if I heard you right, and how that. So, looking ahead, looking down the road here, not just Gaston County, but your own personal role and just the impact you guys are trying to make. What do you envision for the organization, 5, 10 years down the road? I mean, where do you see this growing and how it might change?
The biggest thing, is just continuing to hire staff. Right now, we've got myself and Megan, and we're bringing on another full-time staff here in the he's on staff now, but he's starting his funding, and he's going to serve as an area rep for us and help us cover the need that we have in the western side of Gaston County. But our goal is to have to hire 2 to 3 more full-time staff here in Gaston County, and so I can focus more on helping supervise Brandon Strupp, who's in Lincoln County. He's the area director there, and my new role will involve Lincoln County and help walking alongside him and helping him grow that area as well, because he's currently the only staff member in Lincoln County, and so just helping him grow and helping our staff grow in this area is our ultimate goal moving forward, because without staff, it's hard to do as much ministry. But we've also been blessed too, because we're able to partner with a lot of churches in Gaston County, and we've got great involvement from them, and we're able to plug pastors and youth pastors and volunteers from the churches into the schools. That's one of our top priorities going into a school. When we build that relationship, we want to get the church that's around that school, near that school, involved with that program, as it relates to athletics and even the teachers, the administration, just to come in and serve them, because there's multiple opportunities for others to get involved and to serve in whatever capacity they feel called to do.
Okay, so yeah, that's good. So I mean, ultimately, it's just how many kids can you impact? I guess that's the ultimate goal. And if there's schools that are untouched, both Gaston, Lincoln County, and frankly the whole area, I mean, I guess that's a good way to put it. So, Austin, knowing this is a podcast mostly focused on Gaston County, even though we've had some guests that we've stretched out a little bit, and looking ahead, I mean, knowing what you know about Gaston County, what would you say, why is Gaston County better? Because the Fellowship of Christian Athletes is here.
It's a good question.
I mean, you've shared so many things already.
Yeah.
But I like that question. Just kind of wrap up, the broader view of what the impact you guys are making.
Yeah, I think it's just simply better because we get to share the gospel. I don't think there's really any other way to put it. As believers, that's our faith is our top priority. Sure. And we as believers are supposed to go out and share it with others. So I think it's just better because we get the opportunity. It's nothing that I'm doing or Megan's doing it or Brandon. It's what God's doing through us. So just the fact that we get to do that every day as a full-time job, I think it's better because of that. So I think it's just better because we get to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with the coaches and athletes.
Yeah, I'm assuming, again, I'm very careful sometimes when I make assumptions, but I'm assuming you might come across student athletes who this might be the only exposure they get.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It happened. I'd say more so in that direction than the other direction. I think, especially at our camps, we get. I've had multiple conversations with athletes there that they don't even know what a Bible is, or they've never even heard. They've heard of God, but they've never heard of Jesus and what He's done for them. And so it's a lot of them. FCA is their church once a week. They don't attend church on Sundays or Wednesday nights or never grew up in church. So the fact that we get to be that church for them at least once a week is, a blessing for us.
So before we kind of move on, is there anything I haven't asked? Anything? I mean, we'll make sure the last thing we're going to do is make sure our listeners know how to get in touch. Mm-hmm. Any events you've got coming up. Might have some listeners out there that at a school that maybe there's not a presence. Mm-hmm. Just so you said, we'll wrap that up before we finish. But any questions I haven't asked? Anything else you'd like to share before we move on to some of these Gaston County related questions?
I think we've pretty much covered it.
Okay, very good. So, one thing we do like to do every episode, since this is a podcast about Gaston County and why things are so great here, is we have a speed round of questions, and this is really what your family, this is what all your student athletes you deal with, all the other staff on the whole region here, this is what they really want to know about you, okay? So we're going to call it this week the, Gaston County sports round of questions, okay? We just make this up as we go, Austin.
That's fine.
So what is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
For me, it's the banana split sundae.
The banana split sundae, yeah.
Every time I go, I get it. I get made fun of sometimes for getting that, but
why would you be made fun of for that?
Because I'm usually there with some coaches and they, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's my favorite. I love their milkshakes, but the sundae, it's just there's a lot going on there.
It's legit.
Yeah, yeah.
Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Definitely Sundrop.
All right. Favorite local restaurant?
Kyle Fletcher's. Kyle's one of a good friend and he's supported the ministry, and so
good, yeah, it's a great place.
But we've always went there, and
regardless of all the Tar Heel stuff in there, it's still a good place. Yep. Besides sports, what is your favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County?
I'd say me and my wife like to go to the different downtowns across the area and eat. Yeah. But Belmont, Friday Night Live in Belmont for us, we like going to that. High school football.
Oh yeah.
On Friday nights is always, a lot of fun.
Sure. So
that's kind of what we like to do.
So I'll modify this question a little bit for you, even though there's still only one right answer, because I've got the microphone so I can ask. So, UNC, Duke, NC State, or UNCC?
State.
Can we get an applause or something? Come on. Austin, you are the man.
I've always been a State fan. My dad grew up a State fan, so I was born into it, and I'm pretty passionate about NC State. This is episode number 60, and we rarely get the right answer, but that is the correct answer. It is. So this episode just was elevated to a whole new level.
What is something very few people know about you?
Well, I also host a podcast. I'm a co-host.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, let's go ahead and get that advertised for you.
A podcast called His Show. We're on any platform that you can get podcast. But our goal on that podcast is, I do it with Lincoln Lawing, and he's the host, and I come alongside him. But our goal is our target audience is baseball, coaches,
okay.
players, former players, professional players. But our goal is to invite college, pro, high school coaches and athletes on there to share their story and how baseball and the gospel collide for them. So we've had, this past summer was our first summer doing it,
okay.
And we had some cool guys come on there and share their story, and
we're good.
It's a passion of ours.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I appreciate you sharing that. So how about, I don't know if you're a reader or something that you study, anything in your book or blog or article or anything related to sports or FCA that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I can name a lot of articles, but one of the books that I've read recently that's really helped me is called Chess Not Checkers, and it's by Mark Miller. But it's just a book on leadership and growing your leadership style and qualities, and it's just a really good book, and I've read it twice, and we use it as a staff with FCA. We go through that book. We've went through it and applied it to kind of how we lead in our areas, and it's got a lot of good things that you can pull from that.
So chess, not checkers.
Yep.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm all about leadership, personal development books, spiritual books. So I'll definitely add that to my list to check out. So again, I appreciate you kind of indulging us on those Gaston County questions, Austin. So, getting ready close to finishing up today, but a couple more questions. So besides FCA, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
I think it's great because there's different pockets of Gaston County, and all of them still have that small town feel to it. So I think, that's what makes it great. And the people here have been here for the most part for a long time. And every community's got that group of people that really are passionate about their area or their town.
Sure.
And are really passionate about growing it and continuing to keep that small town feel to it. But, for me, that's what makes Gaston County great. And we've had a lot of people come from Gaston County that have went on to do great things.
Sure.
There's a whole list of them, but just that community feel that you get as you go around Gaston County.
Well, to your point, just in this room, we've got East Gaston, Ashbrook, and South Point represented. So, we won't say anything about East Gaston. We'll just let that go. Okay. So, last question here, and I say this every episode. I think this is my favorite question. And for you, it's not too long ago, Austin, but knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would probably tell myself to keep doing what you're doing because you'll like how it'll turn out.
Okay.
Because 20 to 21 age is when I really felt that calling into ministry. But I was scared because going into ministry and having to raise all of my funds was not. It sounded good, but once I got that first, when I had to start raising support, it took a little bit. And in FCA, you've got to reach a certain amount of funds coming in before you can actually get paid.
Is that worth talking about? Because I'm not sure our listeners understand how that model works. Because one of the questions that I didn't ask today, but is how can people get involved? As a career, even. So how does that? Do you mind sharing how does that work, and what do you have to do?
So with FCA, our main thing when it comes to people applying for a job with FCA, number one, it's got to be a calling. FCA is not just a job, and it's really hard to explain that, in detail. But it's got to be a calling for you that God's put on your life to go do ministry full time. But as far as it relates to the funding side of it, we're 100% fully funded by our communities. And it's just I like to relate it to missionary work.
Mm-hmm.
Missionaries are funded by donors, and we have a great base of donors here in Gaston County that give monthly, that support us monthly. And there's links for each staff member where people can go onto that link and give specifically to me or to Megan or whoever else.
Okay.
And we also have involvement with churches who give to our ministry, with businesses that give to our ministry, whether it's scholarship money, whether it's money to go towards Bibles, or whether it's just money to go towards helping fund us as the leaders here in Gaston County. But yeah, it's all 100% donor based. We get no money from above us, no money from our supervisors. So it's faith based funding. So
yeah, if you're thinking about that is something to consider. To me, it's a unique, what's the word? Unique buy-in, maybe.
Yeah, and the ministry does not happen without our donors.
Oh, sure.
They're they're great. They're the ones that allow us to do what we're doing. So full time. So
there's always behind the scenes with any organization that's making an impact. There's always people behind the scenes. So Austin, this has really been good. So obviously, again, the main point we want to get out is if there's somebody out there who doesn't know a lot about your organization. So where can listeners go? Website, emails, just anything you want to share about events, where they can see events coming up. You mentioned earlier that you occasionally have fundraising dinners and that type of thing. Just kind of share anything and everything you want to get out there.
So our website, our national website's fca.org.
Okay.
And that highlights the ministry from all over the world, because we are a worldwide ministry. And it's been around, FCA's been around since 1954. Don McClendon started FCA out in Colorado Springs, and it's really grown from there. But go to fca.org to find out any and everything about FCA as a ministry. But for Gaston County, we're on Facebook. You just search Gaston County FCA, and then we're on Instagram.
Okay.
Just search at Gaston County _FCA, and you'll find our Instagram page. And then my email is austinrobinson@fca.org, and you can always email me with any questions. But our Instagram page really has a lot of highlights from everything that we do. There's tons of content on there, and we're pretty active on there on Instagram and Facebook as well. So you can find out a ton about that, and we post all of our info for our events coming up on there. We've got dinners we're going to try to do this fall, and we always have our golf tournament every spring at Kramer Mountain. Okay. That'll be April 17th at Kramer Mountain. So that's a good fundraising event for us. But yeah, that's everything that the audience needs to know can be found on Instagram or our website, Facebook, or even emailing me.
And the coaches event was that was the event on November 5th.
November 5th, yep.
So any coaches out there, if you heard that earlier, that's something you might want to consider. Sounds like a great event.
We'll post all the information on that on social media, but that we're hoping to get a lot of couples and even singles there too. It's for couples and singles, so to get them to that coaches event.
All right. Very good. This has really been good. Austin, any other last words trying to close this one out about FCA? Or, I mean, you've done a great job, covering everything, both from a broader perspective and here locally as well.
Just, for Gaston County, we're always looking for people to serve, to pray for the ministry, and to give financially to allow us to do what we do. And our volunteers are so crucial to our ministry, so we're always looking for people to come and serve. So
speaking, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a good friend of mine, AJ Main.
Yep.
If you're listening, hopefully you're listening to this episode, and I'm sure you've listened to all of our episodes, AJ, out there. But AJ and I go way back to Greer Junior High back in the mid '80s, and he actually I've had some interaction with him related to FCA. there was an event. I guess it was one of the fundraising dinners.
Mm-hmm.
That was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Wasn't it, out at City Church when Steve Smith came and spoke. So it was a great night, and I'm again well versed in some of the things that you guys are doing. But again, I just from a personal perspective, listen, I appreciate what you're doing. I mean, I'm a Christian myself, and so I have kids that have played sports. I've coached, and I appreciate what you guys are doing and the impact that you're making here on our youth, specifically here in Gaston County. So to our listeners out there, listen, take a look more into FCA, and if you feel compelled to help the organization, I would absolutely encourage it. So we're going to finish this episode up. I'm doing my own book recommendation and maybe a quick thought for the week. And I to say this title slowly. It's a book by a gentleman named Robert Holden. It's called Shift Happens. It's a personal development, leadership, spiritual book, is how I would describe it. It was recommended to him by a good friend of mine recently, and matter of fact, it was good enough that I actually purchased a couple extra copies to give out to a few people. But again, Robert Holden, Shift Happens. And my quote this week is on optimism and comes from Nelson Mandela. And he said, "I am fundamentally an optimist. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed towards the sun, one's feet moving forward." I know here at GSM we talk a lot about keeping always moving forward. Learn from the past, but keep moving forward. And I regardless of what you hear or see out in the world today, I try to be an optimist, and I still believe the best is yet to come. So just keep that one in mind this week, and remember what we've learned here today from the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. And please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, Gaston'sGreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. And please continue to give us good ratings. That means 5-star ratings, because that helps us get noticed. Thanks again to Austin Robinson for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson from GSM Services and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.